Hello, everybody. I am Anita Antonucci, the board chair here at the Shakespeare Theater Company. STC is, of course, a proud community member of the Gallery Place Chinatown neighborhood since 1992.
All right.
We are also the leading classical repertory theater in the United States, and we are thrilled to welcome you here to Harmon Hall, one of our two venues, which is currently producing the 60s themed As You Like It, set to the Beatles. And I'm thrilled to say that rebounding from the doldrums of the COVID closures, the Shakespeare Theater Company has made this the third record performance production of this season already.
All right.
So I really hope that if you haven't seen it, you'll do so before January 14th or come to see one of our many more productions here in downtown DC. Rebecca Lichtenberg, our brand new executive director behind me, and I. Rebecca and I are really thrilled to be hosting this event and to welcome Mayor Bowser and her Gallery Place Chinatown task force to keep this community thriving, and this, as along with so many other arts and cultural organizations, thriving in downtown DC. So thank you, Mayor Bowser.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Please give a hand to Anita. Give a hand to our board chair and all the members of the board. And we too like to welcome the new executive director, who I think hasn't started yet, but will. So give Rebecca another round of applause for joining the Shakespeare Theater Company. And I would like to thank everyone for welcoming us today and hosting us here at the beautiful Sidney Harmon Hall. I also want to recognize all of the members of the community who are here, who live in downtown, work in downtown, support downtown, shop downtown, dine downtown, go to theater downtown, do it all downtown. So give yourselves a big round of applause. I also want to acknowledge all of the members of our new downtown Gallery Place Chinatown Task Force. And we're here today to talk about the future of Gallery Place today. And to help lead this discussion, as I mentioned some weeks ago, I have tapped two phenomenal leaders. And when I say they literally did not hesitate to say yes, they didn't. I called them. I asked them if we could use and tap their considerable expertise in transforming areas from old uses to new vibrant neighborhoods. They immediately said yes. So I want to introduce and thank Jody McLean of Eden's Development. Give Jody a big round of applause. And Debbie Ratner-Salzberg, who couldn't be with us today, but we want to give Debbie acknowledgement and a big round of applause. So Jody and Debbie will be focused on developing a vision for the future of two blocks in the downtown, comprising the Capital One Arena and Gallery Place, as well as focusing on the types of amenities and activities that we have in this neighborhood and how we use the public space. They will be working with a fantastic group of leaders, and I want to thank everyone who stepped up to the plate to serve on the executive committee. And the team will say more about the subcommittees that will help get the work done. Let me first say thank you to two of my predecessors who will step up in leadership, and that is Mayor Tony Williams and Mayor Adrienne Fenty. So thank you, Mayor Williams, who is right behind me, as well as the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development, who will serve as co-chair with Jody and Debbie on our Vision Committee. So thank you, Deputy Mayor Nina Albert, who you will hear from. I'm also very grateful to Andy Altman of Five Squares Development and an alumni of DC Government's Office of Planning, Jose Andres and Rob Wilder of the Jose Andres Group, Rebecca N. Lichtenberg of the Shakespeare Theater Company, Rita Lee of the Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association of Washington, D.C., Valencia McClure of PEPCO, Jaron Price of the Downtown D.C. bid. And please give all of the steering committee members a round of applause. And it is incumbent upon all of us to support their work, to give good ideas, and to push forward. This is about how old uses become new spaces, and we know we've done it before. Jody will tell you about the Union Market. I know that Debbie is happy to talk about the Navy Yard. We have examples at the Wharf and right in the downtown at Center City. And we have the opportunity to do it again. So I want to be clear. We can, as I mentioned several weeks ago, we have a $500 million offer on the table that has the unanimous support of the DC Council with Monumental Sports. And we continue to know the best place for Monumental Sports is right here in the downtown. The fans think so. The community thinks so. The players think so. And we continue to believe that it's the most certain offer on the table. So $500 million, let me be clear, over 3 years, that could start as soon as this spring. So let's stay focused on $500 million that will transform the downtown. And it is also very important that we focus on how those investments will be made, either with our teams or with transforming Gallery Place. So the work of the task force will be additive to our ongoing vision and strategy for all of downtown, including our work to change the mix of uses in the downtown to include more residents and people. So that means adding 15,000 new residents to downtown and converting old office buildings to housing and other spaces. So to that end, I'm excited that we're taking another step forward with our Housing in Downtown program, which is going to be a critical tool for bringing people downtown. This week, we're filing legislation with the council that will allow us to finalize the program's regulations. So the Housing in Downtown program will help us create much needed housing by offering a 20-year property tax abatement for office conversions that meet certain affordability criteria. We already have 5 office to housing conversion projects under construction in the downtown and 11 additional projects confirmed. And we know our Housing in Downtown program will generate even more interest for future projects. So with more people living downtown, that will start to create the snowball effect in terms of amenities and development. And we will also continue to work with employers who want to establish in-person offices downtown. And so just today, we let our team at DC Government know, for example, that we are adjusting from a 2 days of telework to 1 day of telework for DC government employees who are office employees. I should acknowledge that a good chunk of our employees never teleworked because they're on the front lines and they are in person every single day, like our teachers, our firefighters, our police officers, and our DPW workers who deserve our appreciation. So let's give it to them. So I want to be clear, yes, I love to see everybody's smiling faces, but it's not just about that. It's about the services that we provide to our residents. And we are a local government, and we need to be there to do that. So I am so grateful to our team at DC Government. I'm so grateful to our partners outside of DC government, including everyone who is here today. So we have a lot of really talented and bright leaders in the community, and we need you all to be involved in that process. Both the task force as well as the Downtown Action Plan group that's been meeting will help us advance this mission here in Gallery Place and throughout the downtown. And I want to call your attention to a new website where you can go for the latest. It's called Downtown.dc.gov, where we will be posting updates of the work ahead. So with that, I want to acknowledge another tremendous leader in DC government, especially on the DC Council, and that's your Ward 2 Council member who is laser focused on the downtown. And I'd like to invite her to speak, Council Member Brooke Pinto.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much, Mayor Bowser, and all of those who are involved in this critical effort that we all need to stay laser focused on. I have the privilege of being the Ward 2 council member where we are now, and downtown and the success of downtown, we know, is not only important to the downtown neighborhood and surrounding neighborhoods, but to the entire District of Columbia. And I think that that's very critically important that we stay focused on that recognition. I'm also the chairwoman of the Council's Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety, and we know how important a safe downtown is for the success of our city. I want to thank the leaders of this task force, Jody McLean and Debbie Ratner-Salzberg, for agreeing to co-chair this task force, as well as Deputy Mayor Nina Alpert. I think having the additional focus on this particular area, on what we can do now to stabilize the area and recognize that more intervention is needed today, and what we can do for a longer term vision for reimagining downtown. The possibility of the Capitals and the Wizards leaving is a really devastating scenario. There's no tiptoeing around it. It is not good news. It is not what we want to happen. And we need to continue to stay focused, as I know this team is, on ensuring that that doesn't happen and working with Monumental Sports to demonstrate that this is the best place for them to continue to be. And I will continue to work with Mayor Bowser and my colleagues in the council and all of these stakeholders on keeping that possibility alive. Regardless, I want to be very clear to all of our businesses and residents that are here or are thinking of coming here that our commitment to stabilizing Chinatown and downtown is clear and consistent. A thriving downtown and Chinatown requires that we center our goals around safety, equity, and success. Some other good news is this work is not starting today. Luckily, there have been a lot of interventions for downtown and for this area. I worked closely with the mayor and the council on passing and funding the 3 primary pillars of my bill, the Recovery Act, that now are in place, like the housing abatements for conversions, like retail grants for our businesses, and the establishment of a safe commercial corridors program to ensure that our downtown is safe. I'm very grateful for the collaboration of the mayor and my council colleagues on these interventions. We have a lot of work to do around coordination. I'm pleased that the mayor has already established the Downtown Action Plan Steering Committee, and I think it's really important that this task force works closely in advancing the goals that that steering committee has already been taking underway. And I'm hopeful that we can follow the lead of this task force in adopting and implementing the recommendations as soon as possible, again, for stabilizing and activating our downtown as we also contemplate our longer term visions. As we continue to look to the future of downtown and our city, it is clear that we need residents and businesses to come and stay downtown. People are not going to do that if they do not feel safe. And continuing my #1 mission, which is to improve public safety in the city, we will continue to move forward my Secure DC plan, which makes over 100 interventions for public safety, many of which will specifically address the challenges that we're seeing downtown. I know that our government has no greater obligation than to ensure the safety and well-being of our residents, and we're going to stay focused on that every single day. So thank you all for being here. Thank you to Mayor Bowser for your focus and leadership here, and I'm looking forward to working hand in hand with this task force to ensure that we can stay on track for downtown and for the district. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mayor Bowser. Thank you, Councilwoman Pinto, and good afternoon, everybody. I am incredibly excited to be here today. It's pretty notable, I'll just say, to be among a super team of women leaders who are going to help create what is next for the Gallery Place Chinatown neighborhood. As the mayor has said, the opportunity we have today at Gallery Place Chinatown is to envision what's next. This neighborhood already has an incredible fabric of community, of culture, and destination amenities. But the goals of the Gallery Place Chinatown Task Force are to build out and broaden the vision for how Gallery Place Chinatown becomes a unique, world-class destination for people visiting DC, as well as for residents that live here. There is only one DC, and there is only one Gallery Place in our city. We want to make that experience even better with a new urban arena, and we remain hopeful that our sports teams will continue to be a critical part of this neighborhood and our ecosystem, because Washington, D.C. is the only place that can deliver the dynamic experience sports fans have come to love. But no matter what happens, we must invest in Gallery Place Chinatown so that it is one of the top cultural and entertainment districts in the nation. It can be, and it will be. And if the teams do move, and we have to anticipate that they will, we have an opportunity to reposition almost 2 city blocks, 5 acres, right in downtown DC for a new use. And that's why we've turned to these 2 leaders, Jody and Debbie, to contribute. But before thanking them, well, I will thank you for taking this on, but also I just want to thank you for what you've contributed to this city to date. You are not a stranger to this city. In fact, the opposite. You've been part of this city's future for many years. Debbie Ratner-Salzberg's vision and completion of the yards adjacent to the Nationals ballpark is an extraordinary success. In fact, those neighborhoods along the waterfront have fully recovered. And that project in and of itself has revitalized the southeast neighborhoods around it and put DC on the map as one of the nation's most vibrant waterfront cities. Jody McLean's vision and continued investment in Union Market is exemplar of how to strategically activate and reposition areas with outdated uses into new spaces that meet current demand and integrate residential, commercial, and public spaces. The mayor shared who the task force members are. It's my privilege to build out the rest of the team and introduce the members of the task force's subcommittees. Angie Gates with Events DC, Keith Anderson, Deputy Mayor for Operations and Infrastructure, Richard Reyes-Gavilan with the DC Public Library, Carrie Cohn, Senior Advisor to the Mayor for Strategic Communications, Justin Dean with the Boston Consulting Group, Angelique Bruner with EB5 Capital, and Gary Williams Jr. with Creative Theory Agency. If we could just take a moment to recognize them and thank you for your time and support of this. I am looking forward to working with all of you so that we can take what we've developed here, what already exists here in Gallery Place Chinatown, and apply it once we get through this task force, see how it works, figure out what really is efficient, and how do we work together between the public sector capabilities and the private sector vision. I would like to consider taking this exercise, Jaron, to other parts of the city, of downtown as well. What does Penn West, the area west of the White House, over to Foggy Bottom, start to become? What is that unique destination that is unique to Penn West? Same thing with Leona. How do we take this exercise of re-envisioning a sub-neighborhood within the larger context of downtown and really build out Golden Triangle to be what it wants to be next? So I'm really excited about this exercise and applying it and expanding it to our other neighborhoods in downtown to make sure that they have the unique right sets of mixes that will continue to make them individually strong and resilient. With that, without any further ado, I will turn the mic over to Jody McLean.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Albert. Thank you, Council Member, and thank you, Mayor, your leadership for bringing us all here together today. I am incredibly excited to be in downtown DC. I really am. Thank you for having me, Jaron. You've had me before, and I'm happy to be back. And I'm really excited to work with this group of people, some of whom I've had the great honor to partner with and to work with in the past, and some of whom I've just looked up to, and some are new, and I'm really excited for this opportunity. Ultimately, I agree with you, Deputy Mayor, the ripple effects throughout all of downtown and the surrounding areas, this is a great opportunity for us. As the Mayor spoke, this part of downtown DC has truly unique sets of strengths. And that's where we'll start, and that's what we'll build on. And hopefully we'll bring, I don't think hope is a strategy, I know we will actually bring the right vision, we will get the right support, we've been guaranteed the right investments. We can unlock a greater set of uses that will only continue to strengthen this neighborhood for years to come. I'm really excited to be doing this with a very dear friend and somebody I have a deep respect for, and doing this alongside of Debbie Ratner-Salzberg. She's an incredibly talented woman, so thank you, Mayor, for putting together this great group of talent. As part of our work in the task force, we've really thought about the 4 areas of focus that will shape our efforts. First, we will pull together experts. Deputy Mayor Albert spoke about this, for an activation plan, immediate activation plan for Gallery Place and Chinatown area to bring more people to this neighborhood, supporting the needs and businesses. And thank you, Council Member, for your words in sensing the urge to make sure that this is a clean and a safe area. Second, we will invite some of the nation's leading, and some of these are globally leading, urban designers to present their concepts for how to make Gallery Place a world-class destination, as well as work with others who invest and develop in unique experiences to explore this 2-city block, and hopefully a ripple effect that will be much more. From that, the work, we will develop brand concepts for Gallery Place and Chinatown, and lastly, we'll recommend investments in public infrastructure and other that directly support the vision, including business attraction and initiatives. I know everyone here is committed to ensuring the success not only of this neighborhood, but the district as a whole. And I can say, as an investor in this community and someone who's seen DC grow and thrive over the past 2 decades, I want to ensure that we'll do everything we can to ensure we continue a growing and thriving city. I love DC. I've picked DC to be my home, my family's home. I love its people, I love its business, and mostly I love this community. I'm excited about this, what I see as a fantastic opportunity. It's unique to help and shape and execute the future of DC. So thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone, for being here. I'll have the opportunity now to take a few on-topic press questions. Tom?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple, but I'll just start with this. You've named a lot of luminaries here today, some of whom couldn't make it, Adrian Finty, Ms. Salzberg. Who's going to do the staff work? This is a big, well-known group of people. But who's going to be doing the day-to-day, hour-to-hour staff work to get something done other than talking ambitiously?
Well, the DMPED will be the primary staff for the task force, led by, of course, the deputy mayor. Each one of the subcommittees that have been mentioned have a private sector lead and a government lead, and they will also be staffed.
Okay. The other thing is, this is a major city effort that you've put together here today. Impressive group of people. But I did check with the council. I recognize Ms. Pinto is here. The chairman of the council is not even here. And I'm just wondering, and I asked, were you invited? his staff told me no, he wasn't invited. Why wasn't the council, which is your legislative partner, here? Why aren't they here?
Well, you'll have to ask them. This is well, they were. The chair for the Economic Development Committee was, and the host council member was.
Okay, the chairman of the council, Mr. Mendelson, says he was not invited. Is that correct?
I don't know, Tom. But typically when we make invitations or to participate in one of our programs, we focus on the committee of jurisdiction and the host council member.
If you don't mind, I'll ask my last question.
Sure.
I was looking at the confidential document that J.P. Morgan put together for Virginia, for the governor of Virginia, about the plans for the arena in Alexandria. One of the things on there, and based on getting the bonds, maybe it's Mr. Mendelson calling me. I'll put it on.
Is that where you get your questions? Thank you. Wow. Now we know.
No, that was actually very funny, but it shows the example of the tension between you two, but we won't do that today.
That doesn't show that,
So
Tom.
here's,
It shows
well, it
that
does to me. Question, that confidential document shows one of the financial bases for going to Alexandria is to have the Georgetown Hoya basketball team play there. It's in the confidential documents. Have you or anyone on your staff called Georgetown and said, what the hell are you doing?
Well, Tom, what we're talking about is the vision that this task force will set for this area regardless of what happens with the teams. And that's really all I can say about it.
Would you like the Hoyas to stay playing here?
Of course.
Okay. Well, maybe somebody. Thank
Yes.
you very much.
Yes.
Hi, Emily Wishengrad with BizNow. So in the past few weeks, we've seen downtown DC offices trading at steep discounts. I want to talk about Gallery Place in Chinatown since that's why we're here. How concerned are you about property valuations in this neighborhood and that impact on DC tax revenue?
Oh, well, we've been concerned about that, and we've mostly been concerned about that with the telework posture of the federal government, of some private sector employers. So we've been concerned about that since COVID. Delia.
We know the benefits of Union Market and the yards and what that has done. Both those developments have done for those neighborhoods. But you have a lot of business owners who have left downtown citing crime concerns well before the monumental discussion. How do you intend on addressing their concerns, and what's the buy-in and pitch for current business owners to stay and wait for this development?
Well, part of, and similar to how I answered the previous question, Delia, we have seen in the downtown the loss of workers affecting businesses, period. And we have an unacceptable level of crime, not just in the downtown, but throughout. So all of our efforts around crime, we know will help in the downtown. Part of the task force's charge right now is to identify immediate stabilizing initiatives that we're going to listen to what the businesses are saying. We're going to listen to what our data say and put in place whatever is necessary to make people feel those initiatives.
Is there a timeline as to when folks can expect major changes coming to this area?
What the task force is doing, they're going to, now one thing I learned about working with these ladies who I've known many, many years, but I've never worked on a specific project with them, it's going to be fast. They are moving. They want to have a quick turnaround of a timeline to establish the vision so that we can all get to working towards it. Yes, ma'am.
And to follow up on that, the task force must have a deadline, right? So I'm wondering for their strategic vision or their the stabilization part, like do they have a deadline as far as when they should come to you with their recommendations?
You know, we haven't set a hard and fast deadline. I want to talk a little bit more with the chairs about how their conversations gel, and we would come back with that timeline.
Mm-hmm. And a follow on that is, how often is the task force expecting to meet, and will those meetings be public to some degree? I know that happens with other task force.
I don't know if you've talked about that discussion yet about a weekly a time frame?
So I think there are a couple things. Mayor and Jody mentioned 4 different I call them work streams, areas of focus. They're all going to have a little bit different timelines. Specifically for activation and stabilization, that's going to be I see that as being a rolling set of recommendations. As there's already tremendous amount of work that Jaron and the downtown DC BID have already done with their business community, identifying absolute and immediate needs that need to be tackled. Right now, what we are doing is convening the right people around the table. Deputy Mayor Apia is here, Deputy Mayor Anderson. The idea is to have an all-of-government approach, coordinated, so that we can start tackling activation opportunities or stabilization opportunities right away. So that's that. In terms of the visioning, that's a little bit of a different exercise. I think we're looking at this spring and able to source concepts. And then the branding and marketing will develop off of that. So each of the work streams has a slightly different timeline. We will work based on the work stream needs, either more aggressively and meeting more frequently or less frequently, depending on those particular things. I'll just say on investments and incentives, as an example, that's going to lag, I think, across all 4 work streams, because that will be, the last component requires a little bit more analysis to it. So I think that's how we'll end up working together. But our primary focus and attention in the next 2 months is activation, stabilization, and visioning.
Okay, I'll take a couple more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, Mark, I think, oh, no, I mean, if you could introduce yourself.
Sure, Katie Barlow with Fox 5. 2 questions for you. First, as the Deputy Mayor mentioned, this is a lot of effort. This is a lot of people, a lot of resources that are going into this. Why now? Why not do this years ago before there was a threat of Monumental leaving? Why now?
What we're focused on is how we have the potential to reuse 5 acres. And that's what the vision will be set on, and that's a now discussion.
And second question, speaking to business owners in these square blocks this morning, they have some very concrete asks, things that they need done. They're already here, things like lighting, and they have issues with the abandoned buildings. They say they've been talking to community leaders. It's come up at meetings with Councilmember Pinto in the recent months, and they're not getting anywhere, and they're concerned a task force is more bureaucracy just to get these very simple, very concrete things done so that the current businesses that are here can just make it at the end of the day. Something as simple as having lighting on the corner, and the historic district is preventing them from being able to put up lights, so it's easier for folks to gather outside their businesses. What can they do? What's a concrete thing that can come out of this, or that they can do right now so that they can keep surviving while you do this work?
Well, that's a great way to put the question, because all of the work of the task force, there are meetings, there are discussions, but there are people in the government who are focused on these activities right now. Deputy Mayor Anderson, for example, is participating in the task force, but his agencies have a lot to do with operations and infrastructure on the street. And so not only will he be participating in the discussion, but making sure that those any operational issues that are identified are being addressed. We'll also look at, there is a group that's focused on incentives. We've had some experience using bridge funding. The council member just reminded me that she's also already advanced and funded the Safe Commercial Corridors grants. I believe they close on January 12th. So those are dollars that community groups and businesses can already have access to. There's an open application for that now. Mark.
A couple questions, Mayor Bowser. Thank you. One, it seems like the task force is looking at a plan. What happens if the Caps and Wizards leave? And you've acknowledged that you can't ignore the fact that they might leave. And you just said we're using 5 acres right here. So what Mr. Leonsis has said is that even if the Caps and Wizards leaves, he wants Cap 1 to stay. So I'm wondering, if the Caps and Wizards leave, do you foresee Capital One Arena staying as Mr. Leonsis has envisioned it, right-sizing the seating capacity, bringing women's sports here? Or if those 2 teams leave, do you pretty much see that as Capital One leaving?
Mark, this is what I'll say. The Monumental has an obligation by their lease to have the Wizards and the Capitals play here. And if they're not, then we're going to move on from that discussion. Yes, next question.
Just follow up.
Sure.
So, well, what does that mean for the building? Do you want to tear that down and then re-envision, as you just said, this whole 5-acre plot?
I think that the visioning committee will consider all iterations of what could happen on this 5 acres.
And then could I have a question for Councilmember Pinto?
Sure.
Councilmember, you mentioned several times, as have others, public safety and crime. Can you tell us where we are with the legislation getting to the full council for a vote, both the mayor's and yours legislation dealing with public safety?
Sure. So we have introduced and been moving about 15 pieces of legislation through the fall. These were pieces of legislation that we moved to advance public safety around 3 primary pillars: preventing crime, increasing accountability, and improving government coordination. There has been a very collaborative process. We've had hearings, we've met with thousands of stakeholders, we've engaged with residents across the city, and we are expecting those to move for a vote very soon, hopefully later this month.
Okay, who is next? Yes, ma'am.
Can you speak to any subsequent conversations you've had with either Mr. Leonsis or other representatives from Monumental Sports since that announcement was made? And have there been any specifics given in terms of what it would take to keep the teams here? I understand there's the $500 million offer on the table, but is that enough for Monumental to keep the teams here?
I think I've said everything about our offer. We continue to be in business with Mr. Leonsis until we're not. And the full DC government is there to be supportive, and the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development is our main point of contact.
And a follow-up to that, can you speak to any downtown-specific crime initiatives that are already in place and are in the pipeline at this point? What does that look like right now?
I just mentioned our Safe and Secure grants, Safe Corridors grants that were funded by the council and that will be on the street. And the Chief of Police, I expect, will also be with me in the coming days and weeks to talk about more specific initiatives. Did I miss you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple questions.
Yes.
We had a similar event like this last May about the Downtown Action Plan, though we've yet to see the plan.
Yep.
I'm wondering if you can give an update on that
Sure.
timeline, as well as elaborate on how this new task force will interact with or influence that
Sure.
work.
I'm going to ask the Deputy Mayor to speak to that.
Sure. So thank you for asking that. The Downtown Action Plan, I just took a look at the final draft of it. It looks great. So I think we're talking about maybe 6 weeks or so, maybe a little bit less, to be able to release that publicly. What it provides is a framework and a variety of recommendations that should be taken on in order to improve business conditions in downtown and also reposition downtown to include other uses aside from just commercial uses. So it's very comprehensive. It includes transportation recommendations as well and public space improvements. So how this action fits into that greater plan is it starts to detail and apply what the overall framework is suggesting to this neighborhood. So they work very, very well together. It was one of my first questions, and I think that you're going to see tremendous synergy, and we look forward to releasing it publicly as well.
And just one additional question. The $500 million that you discussed earlier, I'm wondering if, as in fact the teams do move, if that money would go as an investment toward this plan, and how specifically you envision that?
My expectation is that we would make investments in the downtown. Yes. All right. I think those were all the questions. Yes. You are not number 4, but I'm going to make you number 5.
Mark partially asked my question, but I wonder if you could elaborate. You said if they're under an agreement to be here, and if they're not, you're going to move on. Does that mean at that point you would not allow a scenario where just the Mystics played here? You would do something else with this property?
Well, let's be clear. We have to have a vibrant space here, and we can't have it underused. And there will be people that it would serve their purposes if we had an underutilized arena in downtown DC. That will not serve the purposes for the DC taxpayer. So I want to be real clear about that. We will not allow an underused arena. Thank you, everybody.